Hello, and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Just a little over a month ago, State Rep Monty Fritts announced that he was running for governor of Tennessee in 2026. He got started right away and has been going 100 miles an hour every day since then. Nothing about his campaign is conventional, but his message and his sincerity are gaining traction. It's hard to listen to him and not get motivated to get him elected and start the process of saving our state from the elitists that control the Republican supermajority that are anything but conservative and constitutionally minded. Monty Fritts joins us tonight to give us his take from the campaign trail and what he's seen and experienced, including door knocking in one of the worst sections of Memphis, something that I doubt either of the other two candidates are going to do. Later, our guest from last week and author of the book Manufactured Crisis, The War to End America, James Simpson will join us again for an abbreviated segment on the book that explains how the communists have used illegal immigration to help destroy our country. So stay tuned with us and get more informed than you already are. Now to our first guest, Monty Fritts. How's it going, Monty?
It's good, Dave. It's a nice evening in East Tennessee. We just finished a really nice gathering at Knox for Liberty, and good evening. It's good to be with you.
Well, I'm glad to have you, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's another long day for you, and I know you're swamped. As I mentioned, you're running a very unconventional campaign compared to the others. How is it different, and why are you doing it that way?
Many differences. Probably that's a long topic. Maybe I'll start with the why first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I really think that there is a great thirst for liberty and there's a great distaste for growing government. And I think people with their eyes open are seeing both our liberties diminished in Tennessee and our government growing and overreach growing. And so I think, I talked to Frank Nicely back in the summer of 2024 when we were doing the praying across Tennessee, and we were in Sevier County. And I remember Frank saying to me that, the statewide elections had become just a lottery for whomever could raise the most money. And we see that now. I've tried to take different approaches on lots of things. I will go to a county function, and there will be 700, I'm exaggerating, but 700 rose signs and Marsha signs. And I just see the fiscal irresponsibility of that, Dave. And it makes me lean in even more on conducting a fiscally responsible campaign, one that reaches out to hear all Tennesseans, because I think the elitist mentality that you made reference to in Nashville, they really think there are some Tennesseans that they shouldn't have to listen to and shouldn't have to interface with. And so I think we're doing this differently because it needs to be done differently. I think that if we're spending, reports of, $20-25 million by one candidate, I think the pharmaceutical pockets are deep enough that Senator Blackburn's campaign could be limitless almost in money if they so chose. And I think when those folks, I knocked doors in Orange Mound, you were mentioning, I think if they understood that someone was going to spend $25, $30, $40 million collectively maybe on the campaign, it would just make them shake their heads. And I think there's a different way to do this. I think there's a way to do this to get out and interface with the people. Make myself available even for these after dark podcasts here in a parking lot at a church.
And I appreciate it.
That's okay. I'm not complaining. I think I'm good at this. I forgot my little tripod, so I've got to hold it up with my hand, to keep the camera still. Hopefully we're not shaking too much. But it's a great adventure. All that long answer to just get to this. So far, it's been a great adventure. And I think it's going to continue to be that. I'm sure there's going to be many more long days. I will say this. I think we're winning. The other candidates just don't know it yet.
I like that. That ought to make the headlines. Then again, door knocking in, was it Orange Hill?
Orange Mound.
Yeah, that ought to make the headlines too.
Yeah, I think some people are interested in that. It was a wonderful experience, to be honest with you. I door knocked a lot to win the election when I first ran for state rep. Because I tried to be fiscally responsible in that race as well. Because I think how you behave on the campaign trail is how you're going to behave when you win the election. I think that if we're going to spend money and just throw signs and money and in every direction, it's quite likely that method will come into the governorship if that candidate were to win. I think that those folks who are either afraid to go to Orange Mound to knock or don't think those people matter, which could be either, to be honest with you, I think that they will govern that way, or they will carry out the duties of the governor in that same manner. So I think, campaign managers, one last thing, I'll touch on that. I'm a little hard-headed, and I don't think I need to be managed. I have lots of folks, as you probably know, some of them are helping in a great, all volunteer force, which is amazing to me. And I think I'm receptive to criticism and comments, and we try to adjust and be a continuous learner and all those kinds of things. But I find it to be a foreign concept that I would need someone to manage me in my campaign, and then I could effectively go in and become the governor, and that management wouldn't continue.
Right.
And I think lots of people in Tennessee have a concern about that. They see candidates that may be a little bit out of touch or greatly out of touch with the average Tennessean, candidates that have been a part of a budget debt in the federal government, growing from 6.8 trillion to over 35 trillion from 2003 to the end of 2024.
Right. That would be Marsha Blackburn. And then, of course, Representative Rose has been up there since 2019, I guess.
It has, and he's seen significant growth in the budgets too. And so you look at those folks' voting record and you think, are they just going to turn over a new leaf when they get to Nashville, or are they going to continue to spend Tennesseans' money like the drunken sailors that they spend in D.C.? And, our kids are saddled with a national debt that I don't think these people comprehend it. I think sometimes they think they have so much that if your children and my children or our grandchildren are under the yoke of that burden, that it won't affect them, but every single American is impacted by that national debt. And that every single Tennessean is impacted by a 59% increase in the Tennessee budget. And, we have folks, they'll show up at a Reagan Day or something and talk about, you're going to hear about misinformation about the budget. And
what's the misinformation? It's all there in black and white.
Well, at first, misinformation is a Democrat word. Republicans should not use the phrase misinformation, or they use the phrase gun violence, because those are meaningless leftist terms, and it's rather revealing when they use them. But I don't know. You can't argue with the facts. Facts are stubborn things, and we do balance the budget with all the federal dollars that come in, right? But I don't know. I just think there's a lack of fiscal accountability. We need to rein that in. I fully intend to.
And they use that money against us to promote things that we are opposed to.
Absolutely. And the money is used against us. The Hughes v. Lee that's used against us. The farmland preservation, they're using our money in a socialistic scheme of redistribution of wealth. That's not acceptable. The school voucher thing, clearly the public in Tennessee did not want this. And it's unconstitutional. That was my primary reason for voting against it. And that's going to be my primary reason for suspending that voucher program once I get elected. The fall of 27, there won't be a voucher program in Tennessee. And I'm sure that's going to make 20,000 people unhappy. And I don't fault them for applying for the vouchers or the whatever we call it. But, reports this week that we have Islamic schools receiving those dollars. Shame on the governor for the way he brought this in and the whole, coercing people to vote for it through the combining it in a mini special session within a session, and including helping our neighbors in Upper East Tennessee. Yep. The whole thing just reeks. It stinks. It's disappointing. I heard from people here tonight, just to ramble for a moment, but I heard from people here tonight that they feel like nobody's listening. I hear that in West Tennessee.
So that's what you're hearing for the most part from all the people, is that nobody listens?
Yes. I hear from lots of people. And I don't know who the folks in Orange Mound had voted for, if they even voted. I just wanted to hear what was important to them. If they want to become a Republican and vote, then that's a good thing. But I still need to hear what their problems are. And 9 out of the 10 people I talked to, they just felt like nobody listened. It didn't matter who they voted for. It just continues to decline. And what I offered them in conversation was decline is a decision. And our vote still counts. We may have problems with the way we do voting sometimes, but it still counts. And we can't become disillusioned to the point that we stop voting and lose engagement.
There's still going to be an election. Somebody's still going to be in office, even if you're not voting.
And it'll be either a Marxist Democrat or a Marxist Republican if we allow that to happen. And there are both.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It is, and I know this is going to sting, but the people feel this way. If we're taking our tax dollars and redistributing that wealth to put someone on some social welfare for the rest of their life that's able to work, that's wrong. That's socialism. But if we're taking those same dollars and sending them to incentivize a company to come here and playing the corporate welfare game or building a new baseball stadium, it's no different. It's still socialism. It's
Yep.
We've got to stop that.
There is a lot, like you're right. There's the Republicans, the supermajority. I mean, I call it the GOP, for the most part, with exceptions, really stands for gang of progressives. And that's a cleaned up version, but that's one of the variations. They're the gang of progressives because they're just like the liberals. I mean, the programs are different. The dollar amounts might be different, but it's the same game. They're taken from the people and giving it to somebody else. Usually their buddies.
And I will tell you, we've allowed this whole thing to become so expensive. Frank Nicely's comment about, the allowing a lottery for who can raise the most money. We've allowed all of our politics to become this huge racket of you've got to put lots of money into it. I know lots of young people who, if we weren't going to stay in session for 4 months, putting people's liberty in jeopardy for 4 months, if it was something more controlled, you might get a few more of those young people involved. I think we need some 30-somethings and a new thought process. And then the money. Most of these young people that are raising families, they've done the Charlie Kirk thing. They've got married and they're having kids.
Right.
Most have a hard time raising the money to run for even a county commission in some, especially these cities. But you get into the state reps and you have, $1 million coming in from some out-of-state PAC to influence the vote just so that we can pass school vouchers. That's just wrong.
Can we stop out-of-state money from coming in elections? I mean, is that not something that we could stop?
I think we should. I think we should. I think we shouldn't be taking, foreign money, including money that's foreign from Kentucky or Missouri. Let's have Tennessee elections be Tennessee elections. And there are companies that may have a headquarters in northern Alabama that have facilities in South Middle Tennessee, right? So you'd be careful with some of those, maybe, but some of these national movements,
right?
They're not for our liberty, anyways. To be honest with you,
right? Would you? So you were in Memphis, and I know we've talked about this before offline, and I see that the troops in Memphis, to me, that's not a federal responsibility, other than if they're doing ICE enforcement or maybe protecting federal buildings or federal installations. But I see the troops in Memphis as basically a statement of failure by our state government, for decades. I mean, it's just now being addressed, but it's been that way for decades. Would you agree with that?
I would, and the people in Orange Mountain and in Memphis would. I talked to police officers, firefighters. We had a little impromptu town hall in a Memphis fire hall. They loved it. They loved it that Country Boy come in and said, "Hey, I'm running for governor. Can I answer any questions for you?" And as they were cooking, this was one of the shifts. They hit me with lots of really good questions and concerns about things. And I talked to at one of the festivals. I talked to a lady whose son is a Memphis police officer. And she said, it feels like giving up. He can arrest somebody, go home, come back on his next shift, and the person's already some violent crime. He's already on the street. If we don't deal with the corruption in the judiciary and prosecutorial functions in Memphis, we're unnecessarily putting Memphis police officers at risk when they do their job, just to let those people back out on the street. And I understand the crowding issues, and I know there's lots of variables in that, but we've got to deal with that. And you and I've talked about this before. I think many of the Nashville elitists, their first response is have the police officer bring a piece of chalk. You take the beating or the stabbing. Don't arm yourself, because that could be the intent to go armed. And we'll chalk line your body and we'll do an investigation, and maybe we'll prosecute at 40 or 50% success rate against that. And meanwhile, those men walk around with armed security, the ones that have failed us in this. And I don't know how they sleep at night. The first thing we've got to stop doing is discouraging the citizen from arming themselves. I don't know. I just find it foreign, Dave, that we're okay in appealing Hughes v. Lee and then sending guardsmen to Memphis, reportedly unarmed.
Do we know if that's true yet or not?
Well, I've heard different reports in different directions. I talked to a sheriff's department employee while I was in Shelby County about that. And we had some discussions with the generals, and we're going to leave it up to decision at the moment. I got to tell you, I think it's simple. I think there's no discussion. I think it is as simple as, if this is a criminal rebellion,
right?
If that's a yes, then you fall into the yes action block. And if to restore law and order, it means sending the guard, first the state should do that, not the federal government.
Yep.
And send them armed. You and I've talked about it before. I have concerns about sending an infantryman or a cavalryman to. I don't think that's a good use of that person.
No.
Maybe it's a little bit different with an Air Force security police officer who's an Air National Guardsman. We have lots of those. Or an MP.
Yep.
But you and I both know the UCMJ and the civilian law is a little bit different. But what are we going to do? Send them down unarmed and have them pick up garbage? How humiliating is that and how disruptive to their life? If we need them, then send them in a capacity in which they can help. And I don't know all the details. Maybe somebody's got some master plan, but I haven't gained any confidence in what I've heard that we're doing.
Right. Especially when you consider that the senior leaders of the National Guard, they've got to make sure that we can send our guys overseas. We got to make sure that we don't, we can't support the Defend the Guard bill, because we got to make sure that we don't get left out of that action. Yet I just wonder if any of them, I wonder, and I understand if the governor says you're going to go, but I just wonder what play they had in whether or not they were armed or unarmed.
Don't know the answer to that. I won't speculate on that part of it, but you would certainly hope that everyone understands that just following orders is an unacceptable first response, and that there is some incumbency upon the NCO to advise his officer, and some incumbency upon the officer to advise his political leader as to the success or failure of what they're going to do. I'm hoping that we've clearly defined the mission, the objectives, and the rules of engagement. I'm hoping those are basic three functions. So I'm hoping the folks in Orange Mound, the folks that we knocked on the doors, they were all for the help. The one exception, I talked to a couple who were just about to leave. They were going out to get in their car, a man and woman, and they were in the street outside their house. And I said, "So what do you think?" And the gentleman's response was, "Well, we do enough in Memphis to create our own problems. We don't.
We don't need any help.
We need to clean Memphis up." And I think that was his way of saying that the law and order thing is. Thank you, Barry. Thank you for coming. But it was unanimous that they wanted some help. All the people that we talked to, and the law enforcement officers I talked to, were agreeable. The firefighters were agreeable to having the guard come down. Now, without exception of maybe that one couple, everybody said, "Why did we wait so long?"
Right. But like you said, if you don't deal with all the corruption, once the guard leaves, however how long they stay, if you don't deal with the problem, then it's just going to go right back. Nothing's really going to change. It'll just be a break in the action.
Well, I don't know that you and I've talked about this. I have a piece of legislation that I've been working on for months and months, and it's an assault on sanctity of life piece of legislation, and it basically accomplishes that there are 4 categories of crimes that could carry the death penalty, and capital punishment should never be used just to extinguish a life. It should be used as a deterrence against those crimes that are so egregious that you can be put to death for committing them, right?
Right.
But I think one of the categories is human trafficking. So if you're trafficking human beings for labor, which would include if you're paying people under the table and bringing them across the border to work for nothing illegally. I'm not talking about migrant farm workers. That's legal. I'm talking about taking advantage of human beings. If you're working them in the sex trade, or if you happen to be that 19-year-old that reportedly in Memphis goes to the 16-year-old and says, "Hey, I want you to go do my dirty deeds done dirt cheap so that you won't get in as much trouble." I think we ought to be charging that 19 or that 20-year-old with human trafficking, because that is human trafficking by my definition. And I think that if that consequence were greater, perhaps it would change some of the behaviors. I think behaviors are greatly influenced by the consequences.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what? I know you've pretty much been all over the state by now. I mean, not necessarily in every county, but you've been east, middle, and west. And so one of the things you said you've heard a lot of is they don't think anybody's listening. But what kind of response have you gotten to your message? Of more liberty and less government.
I think it's. I think first that liberty, I think, is a thing of. It's a gift from God. That's the second Corinthians 3:17. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. And that right to stand before Almighty God, your fellow man in civil government, with the ability to choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing and bear the reward and consequence for such. I think that appeals to everybody. I think we could have a donkey or a mule that would passionately preach that message and people would be drawn to it. I think once people become awakened to the fact that the budget picture in Tennessee is not ideal, to say the least, and that we continue to extract dollars from our pockets that perhaps we shouldn't be doing and then sending them off into corporate welfare, people get energized about it. the message of recalibrating government in Nashville so that this is kind of an evolved point on it. I think that all of our commissioners and maybe every level, but certainly at senior levels, mid-senior and senior levels, there should be constitutional training to hold those positions.
Absolutely.
And there should be testing. And if you can't pass the test, you shouldn't hold the position. I think people love that.
They do that. They do that for sheriffs, right? A sheriff has to be post-certified.
Yeah. So I think the commissioners of every department should have to fall into that. And again, those senior people, those director levels, and all, I think we will make that happen. And then those folks that are currently lobbying and acting against your rights, I think we need to find them other more suitable and more productive employment within state government if they so choose to stay, and they can be on the response line or help line for the governor's office. I really intend to set that up. I think lots of people think that's somewhat novel, but when I talk to people, I'm in Knox County tonight. I was in Sullivan County yesterday. I was in Shelby County and Tipton and across the state. People like that idea.
1-800-CALL Monty, huh?
Well, yeah, or just 1-800 Governor Helpline or something. Get the numbers all wrong there, but we should be able to interface with the governor. He does work for us, and those departments and those employees in the departments work for us. And I will tell you, Dave, most of the people who work for the Department of Transportation or Department of Human Services or the Department of Corrections, they realize that they're a state employee and they have an obligation to the people of the state of Tennessee. It's this centralized push, which we've had in the 3 years I've been there, I've seen it. I think I see it for the whole 6 years of the Lee administration. But there's been a centralization of authority that is unhealthy to our republic. And we need to shove that authority back to the counties and cities where it belongs, and to the families where we've done the egregious things of trying to influence the family decision or a healthcare decision. I really like what Florida's Surgeon General's doing. This Lopato, I think is his name. We shouldn't be forcing vaccinations.
Right.
He's probably the most articulate person in the nation today on that subject matter, and I think people are listening.
Yeah, and nobody should be considered non-essential. Nobody's job.
No. We fought that 3 years, and we'll fix that. I do think we're going to win, and I'm humbled by the fact of even getting to run for this office. Right, that we live in a place where I can apply to 7 million people to serve as their next governor. I'm going to have to work my knuckles to the bone to do this. Yep. Really, it's a God thing. I think it's going to be a miracle that people are going to look at it that way. After the vote count, if we indeed win this thing like I think we're going to, it's going to shake some people up, because they're going to spend lots of money and think that because they sat in the boxes with Randy Boyd and got their picture taken at a UT football game, or they said they punctuate every sentence with Donald Trump, or Donald Trump's in paragraphs that I like President Trump, and don't you think everybody's saying to both the other candidates, give it a break? Don't you think so? Yeah. I do.
I tell you, I really think the one candidate, this is just me. I got no use for Marcia. I think John Rose is mostly the most appealing thing about John Rose is he's not Marcia Blackburn. Bottom line, I think that's his strongest point, and that he didn't vote to certify. Those are the two main pedals of the Rose campaign, if you will. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I know he had a good business before he entered politics, but I think that's what we're looking at. And, I think that's why I think you're having a good response from what I've seen. And so let's jump to this real quick. How can people get involved in your campaign if they want to help out?
Go to fritzfortn.com, FRITTS, the number 4, tn.com, there on your screen. And I really need 3 things from everybody who is thirsty for liberty and sick of growing government, and they want liberty and less government in Tennessee. I need them to volunteer. I need them to enlist in the Liberty Army. I need them to door knock. I need them to phone call. I need them to help put out signs. I need them to deliver signs. And I need them to do that because they want their children to have liberty. I need them to volunteer, enlist. Secondly, I need them to invest. I need Tennesseans, and it's not an invest in me, it's an invest in liberty. I don't need anybody's money. I don't want anybody's money, but we need it to be able to compete on this stage.
Right.
I have no intentions of trying to compete with the fundraising goals or however much money the other 2 candidates are going to put into it, because I think most Tennesseans consider those numbers profane. But there is a minimum number to be able to get the message out so that we can promote liberty and less government in 95 counties.
Yep.
And I think when people hear it, I think it's going to draw it to them. I think the third thing is then pray that we need a move of God in Tennessee. You've heard me say this when we were doing the Pray for Tennessee. We need a move of God in Tennessee to not only continue to reveal the corruption. And my goodness, Dave, have we not seen some corruption in this last year that God has revealed? Does it? Maybe I'm the only one that thinks it's corruption on this Hughes v. Lee appeal. I think that's corruption.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
And I think that this school voucher thing, to schedule it the way is a corrupt thing to do. I think God's answered the prayer. I'm just hoping that folks will open their eyes and find themselves no longer able to look at it and do something about it. So very simple: volunteer, invest, and pray.
Yeah. And
Team Liberty's going to get a win.
Yep. Freedom's not free, and neither are campaigns.
That's right.
Any upcoming events you want to tell the people about?
We're going to be in Blount County tomorrow night. That's a big thing. I've spoken with the Blount County conservatives before. We've got some. We're going to be in Middle Tennessee, I think, the week after that. And so you've asked me that question, that I have to go look at my schedule and my calendar to correctly answer. I can only tell you for tomorrow.
That's fine. That's fine.
I've got several email loops to complete tomorrow, some organizational structure stuff to complete tomorrow. And then we've got to get together up in Blount County tomorrow evening at the Blount County East Tennessee Conservatives in Blount County. And that'll be a good meeting. They meet at the Rio Church there going out of Maryville. David and Susan Baugh head up that organization, patriotic, God-loving, country-loving group of people. It'll be our crowd.
Well, good. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad things are going well, and we'll definitely have you back on. I just thought it'd be good to get you the first month in, and I think you've made a lot of ground in that fairly short period of time. Especially,
well,
especially without having millions of dollars like they say that you have to have.
Yeah, I think lots of people are kind of blind to all the signs. Again, if we go to an event and there's 700 Rose and Blackburn signs outside, and we might put up one Fritts sign and go in. It's not because I don't have 1,000 of them. It's because we've become creatures of habit, and we think we just have to campaign the way we've always campaigned, go throw lots of money, look for other politicians to endorse you.
Right. Celebrate everybody's birthday, right? You got to go. Are we going to see some of that? Are you going to go around and celebrate some legislators' birthdays?
No, I need the endorsement of the welders and pipe fitters. I need the endorsement of the police officers and firefighters, the teachers. I need their endorsement. I need the endorsement of the folks on fixed income that realize that I will fight for them, and I will fight to reduce their tax burden in Tennessee. I need their endorsement. I need the endorsement of that 19-year-old Turning Point USA student that realizes that my generation has sold their generation out to debt and corruption at the federal level and at the state level. Yep. And not debt, but increasing budgets. And I think I'm going to get lots of those endorsements. That's the ones I'm looking for. I find it funny sometimes when I see we'll have one of the other candidates, especially Senator Blackburn. She's getting endorsements, and I don't know what kind of arm twisting happens there. I've heard that some didn't want to endorse, but were kind of forced to. I don't know what that means, but
That means they don't have a spine. That's what that means.
well, I don't know what it means. Who knows? But anyways, she's standing with this person, and they're cheesing and smiling, and they endorse her, and they've just scored 50 on the Freedom Index for constitutional adherence and the small government principles. And I think, I don't think I want that person endorsing me. Yeah. I may lie, but an endorsement's kind of saying you agree with everything that this person's done. And then I'll hear Senator Blackburn say at every event where she speaks, well, Governor Lee's done a good job. And I'm like, you're not traveling in my circles.
Right.
You're not. And then Congressman Rose will say the same kinds of things. I find it greatly disturbing that neither of those candidates is questioning the budget growth in Tennessee. I find it reprehensible that I haven't seen anything, and maybe I've missed it. If I have, I will apologize. But there's been no stand by the Blackburn campaign on this Hughes v. Lee thing. I haven't seen anything from either campaign on the atrociousness of the school vouchers perhaps sending money to Islamic schools.
Yep.
Where are you at? Aren't we supposed to speak up? Didn't Bonhoeffer say that silence in the face of evil is evil?
Yep.
I think it is.
I agree. Well, Monty, I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to let you go. I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely have you back. And just be careful out there and enjoy it. You seem to be enjoying it as much as it's got to be hard to put all those hours in. You seem to be enjoying it.
Yes, sir. It's fun. It's going to be a great adventure.
Well, thank you. Take care. We'll talk at you later.
See you, Dave.
Take care. Our next guest is James Simpson, who was also with us last week. He's going to focus on how the communists in our country promoted and used illegal immigration to advance their goal of destroying our country. We're going to take a quick break, and he'll be with us in just a minute. Don't go away.